Howdy, folks. I have a question for you, and that is, do you believe what they've been throwing at you about crossovers? Because most are slow, most don't handle very well, most actually feel like you're sitting inside of a tall station wagon that doesn't have good performance. Well, what if you want that, but you also want to have something that is a plug-in hybrid, which means you get to hug all these beautiful trees that are around you? Well, my friends, I give you the 2024 Dodge Hornet. Check it out, it's the RT. That's right, and this is special because it's a plug-in hybrid. In this class, it's one of the few that actually is. So in this video, I'm going to take you on a walk around the vehicle. I'm going to show you all the components. I'm essentially going to tell you everything about it with the exception of driving, which is going to be in a separate video. So let's begin up front. Now, when they brought us into the studio, they were showing the front end design as something that is akin to, and I think you might agree, the Dodge Durango. Yeah, I can see that. It's got the squinty eye look, but it certainly looks like a Dodge up front, right? Now, it's obviously subjective. I'm not going to force you guys to say one thing or the other in terms of my opinion. However, I am grateful for one thing, and it happens to do with the hood. The RT has this nicely sculpted hood with this. These are actually functional. They are heat extractors, basically. You can see there's a hole right here, and it runs from inside, which you'll see a little bit later, out, and it actually allows airflow so you can extract heat. Yeah, that's pretty good. All right, so what about the rest of the vehicle? What is it? This is a 288 horsepower beast that puts out 383 pound-feet of torque. That's combined. In its class, there's almost nothing that has those numbers. However, in order to build this vehicle the way they did, the price is rather exorbitant, and we'll get to that at the end of the video. But I can tell you this, it's sort of in a class of one, because right now, if you think about plug-in hybrids in this class, and this technically competes against vehicles like the Honda HR-V, the Toyota Corolla Cross, it is in a class of its own in that respect. All right, how about we pop the hood? Because there's a couple things you probably should know. Now, by the way, we're in North Carolina on the Blue Ridge Parkway. And it is beautiful, but it is a little windy, so I do apologize for that. I cannot control the wind, neither can Roman really. Okay, so what is this? This is a 1.3 liter turbocharged engine under here. Can't see it, but trust me, it's in there. And it's hooked up to front wheels via a 6-speed automatic transmission. Now what's interesting is they do have a 9-speed in the other vehicle, the GT, which is going to be in a separate video. But they thought for packaging and performance reasons, the 6-speed was the way to go. Now, it's paddle shifters and everything else, and we'll talk about the paddle shifters, but it is rear drive as well. In other words, all-wheel drive. But unlike the GT, this has an electric motor in the back, powering the rear wheel. So when you think of vehicles like from Toyota, most of Toyota's hybrids with all-wheel drive tend to have an electric motor powering the rear wheels. So it's the same type of thing here. Although the way they put it, it's more for performance. They want to sell you guys on this vehicle, yes, is a plug-in hybrid, and it can go over 30 miles on a charge on all electricity because it has a 15.5 kilowatt hour battery, and I'll show you where that is in a second. That means that this vehicle should be pretty economical, but they did not release EPA numbers with this vehicle yet. Not officially. So I can't tell you that, sorry. Let's move to the side. Ta-da! Now, you may have noticed these huge wheels. These are 20-inch, they're on Michelin's. These wheels and tires are part of a package. And there are 3 different packages you can get with both this and the GT. And this is part of the track pack. This actually has all the packages kind of all combined into one vehicle. With this, you get the red caliper brakes. You get a trick suspension system. These are actually Koni shocks that are adjustable. And they're quite serious about the adjustability because it goes from being extraordinarily stiff to fairly light, according to them. When we do the driving impressions, we'll be able to tell you what the differences are on this amazing highway. The side view of this vehicle might look a little familiar, and that's because the platform is based on the Alfa Romeo Tonale. Now, that means that a lot of the components here are shared, although most of the sheet metal, most of the interior, most of this car is bespoke to Dodge. So it is a Dodge, right? Okay, let's move to the back. Once again, they decided to go with the design that's very similar to other Dodge products. I can definitely see in this type of design right here an awful lot of elements that come directly out of the Dodge Durango and the Charger, really. There's a little bit of that going on. Real exhaust pipes, folks, and they actually make some noise. And I will turn on the engine and let you hear it. It's not stunning. I think perhaps you guys will have to be the ones that really hear it, but at least it's not augmented. The only augmented noise actually is the electric motor. When it's moving, you could hear that whirling noise, and that's required by the government. They make sure that happens. Now let's have a quick look back here. It's 22.9 cubic feet of cargo space back here. It's not class leading, but it's also not the back of the class. It's actually right in the meat of the middle. Top of the class would be something like the Toyota Corolla Cross. That's got a lot of space in it. But there is a little extra room down here. And underneath this resides two things. A gas tank, obviously, and the electric batteries next to it. That 15.5 kilowatt hour battery is right there. That's important, and I'll tell you why. But first I'm going to close the trunk as we get blown away by the wind. It doesn't want to close. I'll close it manually. How about we get inside the car? There we can talk. Come on. Now, have a look at these seats real quick, because this is one of the options. You can get red leather as well. You can get a couple different types of materials on the base models as well. But this is really cool because the way they do the perforation, look how it kind of pulls out with the kind of orangish red. It's pretty cool. This is unique and bespoke to the track pack. Let's get in the car and close those doors. Oh yeah, now you can hear me more. So, what do we have inside? The good news is, I'm gonna fire up the engine. You're not gonna hear a lot. You know why? It's a hybrid, that's right. Okay, so given what this vehicle is and the fact that it is altogether the same vehicle you're gonna get in the GT, there's a lot of the components here that are shared with both. In fact, they all are pretty much. So, 10 point, I think it's a 5-inch screen. And then this is a 12.3-inch info screen here, which is remarkably customizable. And you can go through this and make it something that makes it look a lot different. Let's go and hit some buttons here. See, yeah. And this whole thing can actually change when it goes into a navigation mode. And this will actually carve out these two sections here and show you more. Okay. Now, let's, she loves me. Let's talk about the rest of this interior. Overall, when you get a package like this, you would normally get a sunroof, but they actually showed that it was canceled, and you get a credit for that, and I have a feeling that has to do with supply, but that's a guess. The cool thing about this particular vehicle, which I wasn't able to tell you outside, is that because you have a smaller displacement, hence smaller engine up front than the GT, you have better weight distribution because you have that battery in the back. And also an electric motor, by the way, that's powering the rear wheels. So The overall balance of this vehicle is about 48% up front. And no, sorry, 48 in the back and 52 up front, which is pretty close to being balanced. Not bad for a crossover, which in many cases can go up to 60% in the front. Now, speaking of that, I bet you're wondering about the powertrain and how it works. Well, very simple. If it detects slippage, it will send power to the rear wheels. And then it has torque vectoring back there as well. Up to 50% can go into the back. Now, there's no actual snow mode on this, but you leave it in regular mode essentially, and it will detect slippage and put power where it's needed. It figures out snow according to the guys that we talk to. So it's not an off-roader, not at all. There's no locker in here. You're kind of restricted by its ground clearance, which is between 7 and 8 inches, depending on which vehicle you get. 8 inches is its maximum, but because of the suspension and everything else, it's a little bit lower. But given the overall layout, it's not a big surprise. The rest of this interior I want to talk about now, because you have the whole vents, going all the way over there. It even has a volume control knob. It's not really volume. Well, I guess you could say it's volume control. You have a lot of toggle switches for the heating and air conditioning system going all the way across. These, nice to have, to be honest with you. Because I'm not one for screens, but the screen really does let you do an awful lot of things, because you can go in there for all of your stuff, including heated seats and all that. Bang through there for it. You have everything else in this screen. So you're able to look at your battery, which we've drained the hell out of. I apologize for that. And the different types of drive modes. And there we go. So these gauges can come up. And if you decide to go into performance and try to have some fun with the car, you can go into a sport mode. And that sport mode changes everything. This car goes from being fairly docile to being far louder. And this is without me driving it and telling you exactly how it feels. I'm not going to do that. But you can hear that. See if I can. Hear that? Yeah. It's not that loud, but you definitely hear it. All right. Now, let's talk about backseat space, because a lot of you people who are going to be buying a car like this are going to be interested in whether or not you can get Junior into the back. Now, I'm 6'1", and I'm just going to hop right behind me. So, interesting rear seat design, by the way. Same type of setup when it comes to the perforated Alcantara. That's very nice. Feels good. All right, here we go. So you do have, of course, a pull-through. This opens up, and you can put skis through it. Drink holders. All right, here I go. Legroom's okay. Footroom's not the best, but that's okay. As you can see, I'm here. Now, there are vents back here, and you have USB and USB-C. I do have actually a decent amount of headroom. I thought I wouldn't have much, but they have it's scalloped back here, and that really helps. Whoever's sitting in the middle seat shouldn't be tall, because their heads are going to have issues. But otherwise, yeah, plenty of room. Let me see if the seats do anything. Nope. As far as I can tell, this is the only position they're in. No surprise. Okay, let's move back to the front seat, shall we? All right, now, can you see these paddle shifters? They're functional. They do exactly what they're supposed to do in terms of gears. But there's an extra thing, and it's called PowerShot. Now, PowerShot's important because for those people out there who need that extra boost when you're really ticked off in traffic, this is what you do. You pull both of these in. it's going to show, and I'll show you how it works. It clicks down and shows you when it's ready to go, and then you put your foot in it, and then away you go. Because it gives you, is it up to 30 extra horsepower? 30 extra horsepower. So that means that your boost will work not only at a standstill, but as you're driving through traffic. You're able to mess with both of those, which is useful for those people who have to cut through traffic as quickly as possible. Now let's start this up. Okay. And in order to use the PowerShot, you got to be...
We're just going to demonstrate it here. We're not actually going to drive.
Nope.
That's coming at a later date.
Yep. So you'd be in drive. You'd have sport on. Now, hopefully this will do it. See that little whirly thing? It shows the turbos. And see how it dropped down? That means it's ready to go. And then you would slam your foot on it, and you would go. When we did the driving impressions, we'll show you exactly how that works. But it's a relatively simple setup to get to. Okay, so what about the rest of the components right here on the steering wheel? Well, there are some other buttons here. They do allow you to go through different modes, the Drive E modes, all right? So let's show you what those are. Remember, this is a plug-in hybrid. All right, there's electric, which there's no battery, so it's not gonna do anything. There's E-Save, and that essentially, fired up the engine immediately because it's gonna turn the engine into a partial generator, allowing more electricity to be shoved back into the battery. And then there's hybrid mode. There we go. And hybrid is, well, exactly what it is. It's using both systems at the same time. In our case, because we do want to do some demos, we're going to leave it in the e-save mode so we can build up the battery a little bit. Or who knows, maybe somewhere around here we can find a place to plug in, because this vehicle can charge at level 2 in about 2.5 hours, maybe even less. If you have it on 110, 120, then you're talking about 7 hours to fully charge the battery. In this case, because it is pretty much empty, yeah, it would be quite a while to charge this thing. There is no fast charging available currently. So it is what it is. Still, it is a plug-in hybrid, meaning that if we had it fully charged, we'd be able to run around these mountains for 30 miles, or give or take, in all electric mode. That's really good for commuting, not so much when you're doing long distance driving. But for the most part, we've been driving it more like a sports vehicle. Of course, it's TFL, so we've been hammering it and driving around hard. Can't tell you about how it feels and how it drives, but I can tell you is that the overall setup of this vehicle in terms of its hybrid system is relatively seamless. You don't have to really do anything in order to make it work. You can select the different drive modes in order to favor the battery or not, and then you can go into sport mode. That's pretty much it. Everything else is relatively automatic. So these other things here, which by the way I do not use, you can turn on for ESC, park sensing. I do not like park sensing, but you're able to shut it off, which is really great. By the way, start stop, and it does have start stop. I don't know how to defeat it, but I can barely tell it's doing anything, so it doesn't really bother me one way or the other. All right, so the rest of this interior, can we get to the glove compartment? Quickly show that, and then I'll show that's pretty damn big. That is a big opening. All right. Now, because it's really windy outside, unfortunately, I'm not going to stand in front of the camera out there and end it there because it's crazy windy, but we'll do a little bit more walking around it. But I wanted to talk about the price real quick because this is a $52,000 car. Yep. Didn't even want to water that down. $52,000. It's a boatload of money. For that much money, you can get vehicles like Infiniti and from, Lexus even. Question is, do they have this type of power? The question is, do they have this type of driving? Do they have this type of attitude? That's what you're going to have to be asking yourself. What I can tell you is, and I'm not saying a driving impression, but as an overall package, what they've sold most of the journalists on is this. In terms of performance in the class, and you're talking about, all right, here we go. The Honda HR-V, the Toyota Corolla Cross, the Subaru Crosstrek, the Chevrolet Trailblazer, the Hyundai Kona, the, what would it be, the Kia Seltos. I think I got most of them, or majority of them. Amongst those, none of them come even close to this type of power. And although some of them will have hybrids coming soon, right now they don't, or plug-in hybrids, I should say, sorry, plug-in hybrids. So in its class, this is the only one. Later on, you will be seeing a video and videos about its little brother, I'd like to say, which is the GT. And both Zach and I feel that that will be the volume seller. It's going to be far less expensive. Now, this vehicle, if you don't get all the packages and everything else, is about $44,000. But this has everything in it. It has the tech package. It has that track package I told you about. So those things are important to keep in mind, and they can be very expensive packages. So keep that in mind as well. So how about we hop out real quick? We'll do a quick little walk around on the outside, show a couple more details, and wrap this puppy up. What do you say? All right. Helps if I shut off the engine. There we go. So what do you guys think? Is this something that is worth $52,000 and change? Not 100% sure. Gonna have to drive a little bit more and figure it out. I will say this. This is the first vehicle that Dodge has produced that is showing their electrified future, according to them, because they will be moving closer and closer to electrification and building vehicles that are more and more efficient while trying to keep the Dodge image of performance. That's exactly what this vehicle is built for. So stay tuned. We're going to see more with this vehicle real soon.